Hi, and welcome back to The Customer. I'm Mike Giambattista. I'm here today with Tugce Bulut, who is CEO and founder, and that's critical and important, and we'll talk about that in a minute, of a company called Streetbees. So first of all, Tugce, thank you for joining me. I know you're extremely busy, so thanks again for this.
It's my pleasure, Mike.
Tell us a little bit about what Streetbees is and what Streetbees does.
Very happy to. Streetbees actually came into existence as a, in the junction of backgrounds that we have, my co-founder has, coming from different areas, right? Just to give a bit of a background, I was actually doing my PhD on poverty alleviation in a previous life. So I did a lot of field research as an, ethnographic research. Myself, I lived in India for a year, and you get quite close to people's lives. You can observe what's going on. And that gave me a lot of insights into what good research looks like when you can observe what's happening in the moment in people's lives, right? And later on, I worked as a strategy consultant for 7-8 years. And we used to buy a lot of research from market research companies. And when we buy that, I started realizing that we always have to make a trade-off between either quality or quantity, which is very important for analytical research you're doing, right? So for example, if I'm working with one of the world's largest chocolate companies as a consultant, and we want to project, which market they should focus on, which market segment they should go after, we get all our data in terms of like historical series for sales data, for retail replacement. But when it comes to the most important factor, consumer demand, what they want, how that demand is changing, we have this like one of, usage and attitude type of research done at quant scale 5 years ago, and we have to build all our models on that. And that was quite a stark difference, that either you can observe people's lives one by one, which is very expensive and not scalable,
Sure.
or you get all this quant data, which loses the reality. So with Streetbees, we wanted to build something which doesn't compromise on the quality of the information. So we can actually, just like doing an ethnographic research, we can observe the real behavior. But thanks to AI technology we are using, we can do it at mega scale. At the moment, at Streetbees, we gather more than 1.5 million moments of observations, right, every month. So you actually get that depth of the information together with the breadth you're getting, so that you can actually use it for market sizing, for opportunity sizing, with statistically significant data.
Can you describe, if without giving away your secret sauce, how you do that? Because I think having solved that, and clearly you have, there are an awful lot of market research companies out there that can give you quality or quantity, and as you said, quant or qual, and but struggle to deliver both.
Yeah, to be honest, we have no secrets. We always took the approach is that we want the market to operate this way. So the more people can do this, the better for the overall market. And I think from the leading brands, that's a big demand anyway, right? They don't want to rely on old school surveys anymore, where people are showing massive matrix, answer options, when you lose will to live by the time you finish the survey, right? No one wants to collect data like that anymore.
Right.
So what is really the solution here? It's gonna sound so simple when I say it, but it's also equally challenging to actually do it. We need to treat both sides of the market as our customers. We consider Streetbees as an exchange platform. It's a data exchange platform. Brands and customers need the data. People on the street are happy to share this data, but they both are your customers. So you can't turn to we call them our bees, our community. We can't turn to the bees and say that you need to spend 50 minutes to do this survey, exactly answering these questions in this way. Why should they do this, right? And then they're not going to actually provide real information. We make the experience to the community super easy within the flow of their natural life flow, right? So if I'm in a pub, if I'm in a bar on a Friday evening, I can go to the Streetbees app. I can capture the moment in the app by simply taking a photo and recording for 1 minute what I'm doing, who I'm with, what's my mood like, what brought me here, right? That's it. It's that easy. So we can get this from millions and millions of people on an ongoing basis. And then on the customer side, they need a solution that's actionable. In between, we have the AI technology to turn that what we call unstructured data into actions and recommendations for customers. That's the hard bit. You have to do this at scale. For most agencies who tried to do this, they couldn't reach those scales, and AI doesn't work without the scale. And for the more traditional providers in the market, it's quite challenging for them to build that AI technology.
So I mentioned at the start of this conversation that you've been in the market for 5 or 6 years at this point. 5 or 6 years ago, AI was an infant technology that was barely being used. So, you know, my hat's off to you for figuring out that that's the only way to do this, but being able to implement things that, you know, back in those early days when, you know, I mean, that's when people were using square wheels on their cars and using brick phones. You know, AI just wasn't able to do what it is now because it's been developed out so well. So that's pretty amazing. I wanted to, if I may, I wanted to talk a little bit about your journey from the infancy of the idea of Streetbees and what it's taken you to get here this far. And there's all kinds of interesting little milestones along the way I've become familiar with. But I think of particular importance to a lot of our readers and viewers is the fact that you're a female founder. And I know in this country, that presents its own challenges. I'm really not familiar what those challenges might be where you are. But can you talk about what that's been like for you to concept this idea, build it out, turn it into reality, and then journey it through to where you are now?
Yeah, I mean, it's a fantastic question. And frankly, I can't take the credit for it because there are so many people who actually really dreamt it with us. And maybe that's one important thing for anyone who is getting started, to keep listening to the market. I had one idea. It was a very simple one. There is a buyer for the data. There is a seller for the data. Let's use technology to make the market, right? So both sides are happy. That's how we started. But even we didn't know what was possible with technology at that stage, right? And then some of the biggest brands in this space, and you're talking about, you know, Unilevers and PepsiCo's and IKEA's, etc., who came in and told us that, look, what you're describing, and there was nothing yet, right? I really need to give the credit to those guys. They just saw a vision and they supported it, right? They said that whatever you're talking about, if it was possible, it's exactly what we need and what we want. So we are happy to work with you guys as pilots, etc., to see where you can get to. And we were always very transparent what we have and what we don't have yet. So there was never a disappointment, right, in terms of the results, because we experimented a lot together with them. And then we started hiring a technology team. We are about 200 people now. And, wow, you know, more than, I think, 20, 30 of our guys have PhD degrees in physics and mathematics. And they also showed us what else is possible, that people like myself, who we never imagined that actually you can do that with technology. So there's both sides, I think. When you listen to your technology teams and when you listen to the customers' problems and what are they trying to solve, we then keep coming up with the most, you know, cost-efficient, fastest solutions that can actually satisfy that demand.
So you started out with a handful of support from some brands that said, if this is possible, we want to be a part of it, which is a fairly unique way to approach a startup. A lot of startups start with a great idea, have to go scrounge around for money to build something and then prove out their concept. And you actually started from a demand standpoint, which is very interesting. Without opening up something that may be uncomfortable, and I really don't want to with this question, as a female founder, have you seen or recognized, I should say, any differences in the way you've had to approach building this company from, say, if it was a male-only team or male-led team?
Look, it's hard for me to compare. I guess I've never been a man, so I didn't have the both experiences. But jokes aside, of course, I know, what we are referring to. I think we still have some privileges living in London, right? And we definitely, I can't say that we were in a very disadvantaged position in any way. Somewhere like London or New York, you are close to capital. It's much easier, right, to raise money. My advice to everyone is usually that just focus on the problem you're solving, heads down. And if someone is not being gender neutral, in the sense that in your conversations, you feel that there's a gendered angle there, or you don't feel like they see you as an entrepreneur, just move on. There are so many other people, like you got to pick your battles.
Good
advice.
Can't
keep losing time fighting people on something you can't change. But what you could do is you just keep choosing to work with people. When they look at you, all they see is an entrepreneur. Your gender is irrelevant for them, right? And I think we've been very lucky finding those people to work with.
You see a lot of market research. You have a good handle on the predictive value of it. As such, for Streetbees, where do you see market research going, say, over the next 2, 3, 5 years? Where do you see Streetbees going in the next 2, 3, 5 years?
Yeah, and I mean, Mike, I think the most interesting thing here is to really follow the structural changes, right? You probably know better than me. You've been in this sector a lot longer. And what I see is that in the time I got started, we've seen budgets being cut, right? In a lot of market research departments, in even the biggest brands. Headcounts have been going down. Why? Because the brands expect to create the same results, if not more, with less money, right? And that's their mandate. Now, what that means is they expect from the solutions, it's like coming back to that infamous Ford quote, right? You can't keep adding more horses. You need a car now. You need a car engine, right? And I think that's the biggest change the sector needed. Like when you look at more traditional players, they keep improving, but it's just adding more horses to the carriage. Whereas what we brought to the market is forget about older structures, right? We are now going to do this in a way that's going to fundamentally change your cost base. And I see a lot of other companies starting to come to the space with that mentality. It's not so much about we can do this faster, cheaper, but it still delivers the same result. It's more about you need an execution tool. Doing research for the sake of research, no one has money for that anymore, right? So whatever you do to understand the consumer needs to have justified, quantifiable results on your top line, right? And if you can't make that connection to the top line and the change that's happening on the top line, it's very hard to justify your existence.
Very difficult. Yeah, all kinds of industry stats to prove that out. Well, Tugce, thank you so much. I could personally continue this conversation for another couple of hours, but I won't do that to your schedule. But I'll simply say that for readers and viewers of TheCustomer, we try and focus our efforts on innovative approaches to customer engagement and customer insights and customer technologies. And I would just say, please pay attention to what Streetbees is doing. Tugce, it's been a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you so much.
Likewise, Mike. Thanks so much for having me.